Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexia Palacios Peters, and I'm the co-chair for the League of Wives Memorial Project. Thanks, Mom. On behalf of the board of the League of Wives Memorial Project, I would like to welcome everyone here today. Thank you to the current and former city council members and the city manager for accepting this gift and for funding its installation. Coronado will forever host the first memorial to honor a group of military spouses in the United States. Thank you also to the senior service members here today to honor the League of Wives. Now, please rise for the presentation of colors and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Coronado Police Officer Grace Del Baño.
Mark. Forward, mark. Ready, mark. Now, face.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please retire the colors.
Forward, mark.
You may be seated. Now, please welcome Commander Brian Davenport from the USS Abraham Lincoln for the invocation.
Let us pray. Psalm 46 reads, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Truly, our military spouses, the League of Wives, and women like Mrs. Sybil Stockdale, Mrs. Kathy Ench here, Mrs. Regina Trump Bishop, and those others here who we commemorate today. Truly, they have embodied this confidence we read in the Psalms. This was not an easy cross to bear. Great women whose suffering bore perseverance, whose perseverance produced character, and whose character inspired hope in others and in themselves. As we commemorate the League of Wives today and our missing in action spouses, may we draw from their example that same strength of spirit. And in that spirit, God, we ask your blessing on this eventful day, marked by the hard work, endurance, and charity of these women who produced hope where little might be found elsewise. May this memorial and remembrance inspire the same qualities in our military spouses today, the same deep respect for our dependents, and the same qualities of character in our nation for ages to come. Amen.
Thank you, Commander Davenport, for being here today, especially since it is your wedding anniversary. And thank you to your spouse for sharing you with us today. Today is a momentous occasion. Today we honor the POW and MIA spouses of the Vietnam War. The story of the League of Wives began here on Coronado by a group of women who decided to break their silence by publicizing the imprisonment of their husbands and took their fight to Washington and beyond to demand the humane treatment of the POWs and their safe return. Their advocacy eventually helped contribute to the release of 591 POWs. A lesser-known fact regarding the League of Wives is that their organization created the POW flag flown today. With us today, we have several POW and MIA spouses. They are Karen Butler, Regina Bidstrup, Patsy Creighton, Kathy Ench, Maria Stoshin, Leslie Granger, Debbie Henry, Sherry Martin, Marianne Pat Mearns, Andrea Rander, Linda Shan, Shirley Stark, and Karen Molinaire. At this time, I ask these ladies to stand or wave and be recognized. Placing this memorial in Coronado was an intentional choice. The movement began here with Sybil Stockdale and several original League ladies who continue to reside here. Coronado has played a part in this story and will host the legacy of these ladies for years to come. We are pleased to have Coronado Mayor Richard Bailey. He was elected to the Coronado City Council in 2012. In 2016, he was elected mayor. It was during his tenure as mayor that the City of Coronado accepted the gift of this statue and approved the siting in this historic park and allocated significant funding for its installation. Please welcome Coronado Mayor Richard Bailey.
Would you all do me a favor and give it up one more time for Alexia? There's obviously a lot of people to thank, but we would not be here today without her tremendous effort and hard work. So I want to thank you on behalf of the City Council, both current members and former members, for joining us today for this historic and profoundly meaningful occasion. As the Mayor of Coronado, it's my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to the dedication of the League of Wives Memorial Statue here in Star Park. Today we gather to pay tribute to an extraordinary group of women whose courage, determination, and unwavering spirit have left an indelible mark on our community and on our nation's history. The League of Wives is a name that resonates with strength and resilience and represents the wives of American service members who were held as prisoners of war or declared missing in action during the Vietnam War. In the face of unimaginable uncertainty and heartache, these women refused to remain silent. Instead, they organized, they advocated, and they fought tirelessly for the return of their husbands. Their story is one of perseverance and unity, a testament to the power of love and the enduring human spirit. There's no place better fitting for this statue because, of course, the League of Wives was founded right here in Coronado, a community deeply connected to the military. These brave women, including Sybil Stockdale, who became this national spokesperson for the group, exemplified the true essence of leadership. They broke barriers and challenged the status quo, ensuring that their plight of their loved ones was never forgotten. Today we celebrate their legacy with this magnificent statue, a symbol of their strength and sacrifice. It stands not just as a reminder of their fight, but as an inspiration to future generations. The statue will serve as a symbol of hope, of courage, of unity, the values that the League of Wives embodies so proudly. This dedication would not have been possible without the tireless efforts of many individuals and organizations. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks on behalf of the City of Coronado and the City Council, and our gratitude to the League of Wives Memorial Project, whose dedication and commitment have brought this vision to life, to the many donors who contributed to fund the commission of this beautiful artwork, and to the talented artists and craftsmen who created this iconic statue. Thank you for capturing the spirit and strength of these incredible women, and to the many Coronado City staff and contractors who have worked to shepherd this project to completion at the site here today. We also, of course, owe a debt of gratitude to the members and families of the League of Wives, many of whom are here in attendance. Thank you. Your support, yeah, why not? Let's do it again. Your support and perseverance were instrumental in ensuring that the legacy of these women is honored and remembered. In closing, let us celebrate the League of Wives, the remarkable journey and the lasting impact they have made on this community and our nation. May this statue serve as a perpetual reminder of their courage and a source of inspiration for all who visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. It is my pleasure to introduce Congressman Scott Peters. Congressman Scott Peters serves California's 50th Congressional District, which includes the cities of Coronado, San Marcos, Escondido, and coastal San Diego. First elected in 2012, he currently serves on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, the House Budget Committee, and the House Equality Caucus. Scott Peters is a civic leader who has made improving the quality of life in San Diego his life's work since serving on the San Diego City Council. As a member of Congress, Scott focuses on advancing practical and critical climate policies, promoting and expanding San Diego's innovation ecosystem, advocating for San Diego's pivotal role as a partner in the national defense, and making government work. And no, we are not related. He is not my uncle. Welcome, Congressman Peters.
She does call me Uncle Scott. And I thanked her for putting all those lawn signs that said Peters on Coronado lawns. It is my great honor to represent Coronado and San Diego in the United States Congress, where I focus my attention on connecting what's important here in this region to what's happening in Washington. Coronado and San Diego have a cherished history of playing a pivotal role in our national defense, and there are few more prominent examples of this legacy than our region's military families and spouses. Today we dedicate this memorial to honor the League of Wives, who in 1966 saw a void of public awareness about the circumstances of prisoners of war in Vietnam. Led by Sybil Stockdale and an intrepid group of local women, they found their voice in advocacy and established a national movement that contributed to the safe return of nearly 600 service members. I'm told today we have members of the Stockdale family in attendance. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to Sid and Taylor for coming. And we're also joined by some of the original founders of the League of Wives, Sherry, Pat, Kathy, Regina, Debbie, Karen, Andrea, Patsy, Marie, Shirley, and I think I might have missed a couple. Thank you all for what you've done, and we're happy to honor you today. And thank you for being here. These amazing women are the foremothers of a movement committed to a sacred principle that when our men and women are sent into harm's way in times of war, no one is left behind. When service members answer the call to service, we know that it's not just they who serve. When they enlist, so too do their spouses and their families. These families are a critical and indispensable part of our armed forces, and their contributions to our country and our community must be honored and remembered. For all those who served in the armed forces and to the spouses and families who served alongside, thank you so much for your service. Through constituent services, my staff has worked with local community members and the Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency to assist with the identification and return of the remains of prisoners of war who made the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of freedom and democracy around the world. But there are still too many of our service members who remain unaccounted for, and there's more work to be done to bring our fallen and our missing home. There's more work to do in order to support our military spouses and families, and some of this work is being done on the shoulders of the heroines we honor today. It's long overdue that we honor your leadership and advocacy. I'm grateful for your efforts as a grateful nation. We'll continue to be your ally in Congress. Congratulations, and thank you for inviting me today.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the co-chair for the League of Wives Memorial Project, Dr. Christina Slentz. Dr. Slentz is a former Naval Intelligence Officer and military spouse of a retired naval officer. She has worked countless hours on this project, forging connections with League ladies and ensuring an accurate portrayal of their story. We couldn't have done this without her. It has been an immense pleasure to be able to work with Dr. Christina Slentz. Please join me in thanking her for all her work on this project and welcoming her as our next speaker.
Thank you, Alexia. Truly, this was a teamwork effort, and everyone who is part of the project and all of the League ladies and POW community and Coronado community that helped us, I thank you. On September 9th, 1965, Sybil Stockdale was notified that her husband, Navy Commander Jim Stockdale, had been shot down on a combat mission over North Vietnam. This is the opening line on the plaque, telling the story of the League of Wives at the rear of our memorial. While the stories of our prisoners of war and missing are more typically told with the service members at center, it was important that this story begin from the perspective of Sybil, the perspective of a military spouse. Every military family member lives with the potential for such a scene to play out in their lives. It is a movie segment we never want to see, pushed to the back of our minds, suppressed to less than a whisper of what would you do? I ask you today to imagine just for a minute and consider, what would you do? Since the beginning of time, women historically have bonded together and supported each other through the hardships of war and conflict on the home front. And while this has always required great strength and courage, the women we honor today did more than survive. These ladies seated in the front row here never set out to transform the role of the military spouse. They simply saw injustice and inhumanity, and they decided to act, to do the right thing. When you finally step up to this memorial, you will see the women bonded together, physically touching each other. They are climbing and moving forward with a graceful resolve that cannot be easily dismissed. Sybil Stockdale, the founder of the League of Wives, leads the other women while her steady gaze is on the horizon, the true source of her relentless determination. The bow at the waist of her famed pink suit, a hot pink suit, This bow hints at the intestinal fortitude and willingness to go with her gut as she and her fellow League ladies navigated the uncharted waters of military spouse activism. The League of Wives encompassed all services, all ranks, various ethnicities, and eventually all aspects of family well before these norms were expected. Similarly, they reached across military, civilian, and political divides to accomplish their objective at one of the most polarized moments in U.S. history. In hindsight, it is clear their example established a legacy framework by which future military spouses would organize. The four ladies in our memorial echo these facets of the League of Wives, who eventually grew into the National League of Families of Prisoners and Missing in Southeast Asia. Importantly, at the rear of the memorial, there is space for one more figure. As our esteemed artists, Christopher Sladoff and Elizabeth Fredrickson-Polnow explained to us, typically, creative arrangements should consist of an odd number, but our design is no mistake. This space represents the fifth person. This might be the community of Coronado that rallied around these women during their struggle. This space also quietly honors those who are missing, who did not come home. Finally, this space beckons us today and those in the future to learn the story of the League of Wives and always remember their service to our country so that we too might be inspired to take action and do the right thing in the face of injustice and inhumanity. To the best of our knowledge, this memorial will be the first public monument in the country to honor a group of military spouses, and we cannot imagine a better group to be the first. It is now my honor to introduce two fellow Navy juniors, Sid and Taylor Stockdale, sons of Sybil and James Stockdale, who will now share their perspective on this unique story.
Thank you, Christina. And thanks also to your co-chair, Alexia Palacio-Peters, for all you've done to make this moment possible. It's just incredible. Thanks as well to everyone who worked tirelessly to make this vision a reality. Please know that the Stockdale family is overwhelmed by your generosity. Thank you. My brother Taylor and I would each like to present a short vignette, a personal memory that helps to imagine life in the Stockdale household during the Vietnam War. After the news that Dad was a POW was announced in the San Diego Union, Mom boldly decided to break with the government's keep quiet policy and invite 12 women who she knew were in similar circumstance to our house for a luncheon. The women arrived at noon on Friday, October 7, 1966. And to quote from Mom's diary, "It was the first time any of us had been together with others in our same situation, and the talk flowed like floodgates had been opened, holding back Niagara Falls, everyone talking at once sometimes." I was 12 years old, and when I got home from school that day, about 3:30, the gathering was going full force, and the energy was palpable. The women, in groups of 2 or 3, were scattered around the living room, locked in intense conversations. Although I was too young to understand the significance of the event, I certainly remember what I saw and what I was feeling. There was laughter, raised voices, and I sensed they couldn't get enough of one another. They were enjoying themselves so much that they lost track of time. And when they realized it was nearly 5 o'clock and they needed to get home to their children, They all agreed to meet regularly, at least once a month, and ultimately these gatherings led to the creation of the National League of Families of American Prisoners and Missing in Southeast Asia. After that day, and for the first time in over a year, I sensed Mom was more optimistic, happy, and her old self again. I cherish the memory of what I witnessed on that afternoon in 1966, and now know that it was the beginning of a revolution, one that changed the way military spouses were treated and their opinions and needs respected. And the group of women who created this beautiful monument before us today, they have solidified that transformation of military spouse. And I salute their determination and hard work. Thank you very much.
Hello? Uh-oh. See, she always gets up. Pat Burns, everyone. Way to go. There it is. There's the spirit. Woo. Love it. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Stockdale, and I was the youngest of the four boys. I was 3 when my dad was shot down, and I was nearly 11 when he came home. As a result, I really grew up into this reality, not knowing anything differently up to that point in my life. When I was growing up, I felt like I lived a pretty normal childhood, and that is credit to my mom. I walked each day to Glorietta Elementary School, rode my bike all over town with my friends, played Little League, Pop Warner, and the list goes on. My mom was the reason for that, protecting her kids and their memories in the midst of such stressful and emotional times. All of our heroic League of Wives ladies did the same, maintaining relatively normal childhoods for their children when circumstances were anything but. I think the first time I realized the arena in which our mom was involved was when my mom took me and my late brother Stan, who was just 2 years older than me, to New York City in 1970. I was just 8 years old and mesmerized by the traffic, the volume of people, and the incredible energy and class of the city. We were there because my mom was appearing on the Today Show, being interviewed by a then young up-and-coming reporter by the name of Barbara Walters. Despite being just 8 years old, it was then, in that studio, that it struck me that my mother was way more than an incredible mom. She was a hero, she was a leader, and she was smack right in the middle of where it mattered most. Looking back on it now, I realize what it took for her to put herself on the national and international stage and to lead her sisters in arms through one of the most harrowing episodes in American history. On that day, I saw my mom as being poised and confident in the midst of big cameras and bright lights. And then when we got back to the hotel and the door closed, I saw her exhausted and questioning everything she had said. I saw both sides of her, and it really stuck with me what she sacrificed to be the leader of this movement. The next year, I have a vivid memory of asking my mom if she really ever thought that our dad was going to come home. It had been 6 years, and I think we were quietly losing hope. I remember we were waiting on our family car on a red light on the corner of 8th and Orange, and we were coming back to A Avenue. I was in the back seat, and when I asked my mom if she thought he would ever really return, she turned around and took my hand and said, "I'm not sure, Taylor, but I promise to always be truthful with you, and that no matter what, everything is going to be okay." She had that balance of hope and reality, that inner strength, and that brave, calming spirit that made her the effective leader she was. And I could feel it even as a kid. She would be so proud of this statue and how it will inspire others in future generations who will also be in the middle of when it matters most. And to everyone who made this possible, a big and heartfelt thank you.
Now I'm humbled to introduce two incredible women, Kathy Ench and Regina Trump Bidstrup. Kathy Ench is a POW spouse, and Regina Trump Bidstrup is an MIA spouse. They are here to share their stories.
What a wonderful day. This is special, special, special. My husband was a POW. His airplane, an F-4 Phantom, was shot down in August of 1972. So we were involved very late in the war. It was his 4th combat cruise. I was here in San Diego with my girls, our girls. They were 7, 4, and 1. And we were pretty accustomed to Dad not being home. He had been on cruises for some time. But I need to tell you a little bit about the climate. The United States the American people were very unhappy about the war. There was actually protesting going on in the streets, and people wanted out of the war. Too many people had died, too many people were hurt. So it was time for something to happen. So as a Navy family, we kept a very low profile. We didn't talk very much about what Daddy was doing. The Vietnamese were fighting a psychological war, and they were winning because of the protests going on in the large cities. So it was very important for what these wives did. At the time, I know it's hard for you to imagine, there was no internet. So we had to, and no cable news. So we watched Walter Cronkite at 6 o'clock and found out what was going on in the war. Now, when they came to tell me that my husband had been shot down, that his airplane had been hit by a missile, he told me what they could tell me. There was no radio contact, so there was no proof that he had survived the ejection. And I found out later that he had been damaged, his hand had been damaged, and he was unable to do a radio message. So he was MIA for about 4 months. And at the end of that 4 months, we were in Illinois celebrating Christmas with our grandparents, and I got a phone call that said Jack's status had been changed to POW. What a Christmas. That's the best Christmas ever, that's for sure. So now what these ladies endured, I endured for months. The loneliness, the not knowing, the discipline of taking care of children, making financial decisions and those kinds of things. I did that for months. These ladies did that for years. Can you imagine years of not knowing? They are my heroes. So by the time I got involved, they had already done their work. They had already accomplished a great deal and changed things. What they did was raise the awareness of the American public so that they knew what was going on in Hanoi and in Vietnam. And because of that, the POWs became a pawn in the peace talks, and my husband came home. So I am forever, ever grateful to these ladies. They are my heroes, because I'm not sure if they hadn't done what they did, my husband would be here today. Now there's another group of heroes on in here today, and that's that group of people who put together this piece of art. The pink suit I thought was really important, and I see so much pink. And they said they picked pink because it wasn't going to fight with any of the squadrons or the squadron colors, but it absolutely turned out to be Sybil's suit. And these ladies did what they did, wrote letters, talked to the congressman. She wore that pink suit to the White House and met with our President of the United States. So there was no sniveling, there was no whining. They did it with dignity. There was never poor me. It was always, we want the best for our husbands. We want things to improve for our husbands. So they are my heroes. So the ladies and people who put together this project today, I thank you very much. And I also want to thank all of you out there who supported this project, because it certainly is a worthwhile one. To me, It recognizes and acknowledges the fact that the Navy family, or military family, and the military spouse serves as well.
I first want to acknowledge the incredible fundraising skill of this group of women and men. I know how difficult it is to raise funds. I am not a good fundraiser, and they managed to pull off over $350,000, the money they squeezed out of people. My story is a bit of a bummer, and I hope this isn't too unpleasant. We're here to have an uplifting day. And so keep that in mind. This is short. This is the abridged version of what happened. If I went on and on and on, we'd go through the lunch hour into tea time, and you'd be falling asleep and saying, well, that woman never stopped talking. William Trump graduated from Michigan Tech in 1963 and began flight training in Pensacola. I graduated from Eastern Michigan University in 1965 and married Bill a few weeks later. Ours was a cross-country flyover honeymoon to Hanford. Bill joined VA 115 at Lemoore Naval Air Station. We moved into a rental house, and I prepared to teach in a local junior high. The squadron was deployed on the Kitty Hawk in October 1965. My life changed forever in April of 1966 when notified that Bill's A-1 Sky Raider crashed into the South China Sea. He and his wingmen were returning to the carrier from a bombing mission in Ha Tinh Province, North Vietnam. He was listed as missing in action. I completed my teaching contract in Hanford, visited family in Michigan, and moved here to F Avenue. I met Sybil Stockdale in a small group of POW MIA wives. We were a sorority nobody wanted to pledge. Sybil was remarkable, a natural leader with a BA in religious studies and an MA in education. She was the founder and the driving force of the National League of Families of American Prisoners and Missing in Southeast Asia. It became the POW's MIA's most fervent advocate, relentlessly lobbying the government, the military, the Johnson and Nixon administration to improve the lot of POWs and MIAs and their families. I hope that Bill was alive to benefit from the League's efforts to protect the POWs. For me, Sybil and these women were welcoming, thoughtful, considerate, and achievers. It was a time of great negativism, and they provided a positive outlet. Some of these friends are here today. Thank you, Karen Butler, Debbie Henry, Maria Stoshin, Sherry Martin, Patsy Creighton, and others for your counsel and your kindness. And also my thanks to my special F Avenue neighbor, Jean Abram Organ, for 58 years of closeness. Old friends are the best friends. Bill was declared killed in action in 1973. He was never a POW. He was never on any lists. I hoped that the League would be able to get the North Vietnamese to come up with a list of prisoners before the end, but they refused. And on a good note, I did remarry, and my home is now in Phoenix.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories with us today. This memorial would not be here today without the involvement of several key people. Brad Willis is the founder of the League of Wives Memorial Project. After touring an exhibit about the League of Wives at the Coronado Historical Association, he knew these ladies should be honored with a memorial on Coronado. Thank you, Brad, for your vision and support of this project. "3 years ago, the board for the League of Wives Memorial Project began this journey. We collaborated with the sculptors on the design, navigated the city process to donate this gift, and raised over $410,000 to fund this project. We got more. Throughout it all, our team connected with several League ladies and worked tirelessly to honor their story. Please join me in thanking the board and steering committee for the League of Wives Memorial Project. Please stand, board and steering committee for the League of Wives. I would be remiss in not thanking our spouses who supported us. My husband, Josh Peters. Christina would also like to thank her husband, Tim Slentz. Thank you so much, especially this last month, for putting up with us. I would also like to thank all of our donors. Our major donors contributed to half of the cost of the money raised, while all other donations amounted to the other half. Many donations came from POW families, military families, and friends of those who served during the Vietnam War. Your stories touched our hearts and your donations pushed us on. Thank you all for making this memorial happen. Thank you to the sculptors of this project, Christopher Slatoff and Elizabeth Fredrickson Polnow. Your artistry, skills, and heart given to this project are a marvel, and the end result is truly stunning. Congratulations and thank you. Lastly, I would now like to thank all military spouses. We are the legacy of the League of Wives. Their work paved the way for who we are today. Thank you for continuing their advocacy and for the sacrifices and support you offer daily to our service member. All military spouses, past and present, please stand and be recognized. Now is the moment we've all been waiting for. It is now my great pleasure to ask the POW and MIA spouses here today, you in the front row, to please meet me at the memorial for the unveiling of this project. Everyone got a piece? Let's count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies, if you would like to please circle around the memorial, we'd like to take a group picture. And then once that's done, everyone else is free to come forward. We also have some cookies and water at the back. Thank you so much for being here today.